Well, Jason, we're here again for the third and final behind the scenes actors reflection on the Psalms Microfilms project. We have now released all of the Psalms, but we still have three actors that we have not taken a look at what they said at the time when they were just finished performing. So we're going to start with Christina's actor's reflection, and then we're going to talk about it and talk about what things we remember from that day. Just take some time to chat. So let's go ahead and roll that.
I'm looking forward to this.
So tell me, Christine, your experience with Psalm 46. Why Psalm 46, or how did it work for you?
Why Psalm 46? Good question. I believe Psalm 46 because Holy Spirit knows. I often feel like there's an internal battle going on within me, outside of all that's happening in this world. And it couldn't have been more timely and more perfect to remind myself that God is my shelter and that He can stop wars, even the war within, and He has, and He'll do it again and again because, mountains will crumble and often the earth spins around me, but I have to shelter myself in Him. I have to choose to shelter myself in Him, and that's why Psalms 46. You chose it, so thank you.
We chose it together.
We chose it together. Holy Spirit helped us.
Yes. Tell me, why did you want to shoot in the bathroom?
I wanted to shoot in the bathroom because it's my sanctuary. It's the one place in my house where I can close the doors. There's not much happening around me. I feel safe. It's quiet. It's calm. And it's just me and God. And often I'm on the floor. On the floor here. I'm on the floor of the shower. Or in the bathtub, with or without water. It's my war room, so to speak.
Cool. What was your experience with breath when you were speaking those words, when we were shooting?
I know that with every breath that I take, it's the breath of the living God within me. And I've recently realized how important breathing really is. It calms me. And when I breathe in Holy Spirit. And I breathe out the fear, the anxiety, the confusion. So breath is so vital. It's his breath in my lungs. Often I do that. I feel like I'm sighing, and you know how God in His Word says that sometimes we don't know what to pray and it comes out in moans or groans, and for me it's so it's often that, or it's often sighing. Thank God for breath.
That's great. What was something that surprised you today?
The thing that surprised me the most today is God hasn't called me to be a performer. I'm His daughter. He's my father. And I'm learning to rest in that. And so this psalm wasn't a performance. It's like, okay, Lord, write your word on the tablet of my heart and forever in my mind. I want to worship you. This is my worship to you. This is my worship with my brothers and sisters, the crew here today. Help me to pray this to you in the most genuine way that I know how. And He came through. I'm not very good at memorizing things. But this wasn't that. This was me and my Father and Holy Spirit leading me with your help Jason, and the crew every step of the way. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Before we cut, what do you hope other people?
Oh yeah. What do you hope other people would take away from what you brought,
Hmm.
or what you just did alongside God?
Mm-hmm. What I hope people would take away is it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be vulnerable. Once upon a time, not so long ago, I thought you have to, be strong, look the part, women empowerment, all that stuff. And as I rest in God, as I realize who I am as his daughter, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to mess up. Yeah, Jesus is so good. He picks me up, and he's always there. He's always waiting. And so I hope people will realize it doesn't matter what you look like. The more vulnerable, the more real, the more weak we are, he's made strong. And I truly, truly believe that. And I hope people can get to that place of just, of realness. And as you say, it gives us permission to be messy and vulnerable and on the floor of the bathroom. Yeah.
Oh, I love so much of what she said, and just
Yeah, I just feel like, well, mic drop, let's all go home. I feel like we did our jobs, she did her job. It's so good. I love it. I love that she's talking
yeah.
about breath. I love she really did courageously go to those places in the psalm, and it was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is the thing a lot of people might not know about Christina is that she isn't a trained actor. She is, I would say, in some ways, a trained performer because she is a model and she has done a lot of work in front
And a
of people
chef, and
and a
you
chef.
name it.
Yeah, she's a very talented woman. So it's interesting to me that, especially this time around, hearing her reflections. So I remember when she said that in person, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But listening to it again today, I was like, oh, no, it makes even more sense. I think I finally understand what she meant by I'm not a performer in this moment, is that she knows what it
Right.
is to perform. But this for her wasn't about that kind of style of like, now I'm on stage and now I'm here and I'm going to now present to you,
Yes.
and saying, God called her just to be real. And that was so much
And
the heart of this project, is just take all the things that you know of how to do, but come and be real. So I really
absolutely.
love that.
And
Yeah.
I think it was beautiful. We gave her all kinds of room to actually breathe. And it's
Mm-hmm.
one of the Psalms that we actually really let. I mean, we did all of them, but this one particularly, there's just a whole bunch of space. We gave her space to not be speaking. We gave her space to sit in the contemplative moment, and she really does that in a remarkable way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought her performance was all kinds of courageous, and really I love watching it because it allows me to go, oh right, breathing. I need to breathe. I need to
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another thing that she says, and it's in the psalm, and we talked about it when we released her psalm, and she says it in her actor's reflection that really stood out to me once again. And that was talking about God being able to stop wars. And, we couldn't have known when we filmed this psalm what was going to be happening in Europe. And I want to acknowledge too, like, wars are happening all the time, whether
Oh
they're
yeah.
gang conflict wars in countries. There's a lot of localized conflict in Africa. So obviously, like, the war that's happening in the Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, like, that's not the only conflict happening. But I've always, especially in this point in my life, been incredibly challenged by the idea of pacifism. And not that I necessarily agree with it 100%, but with this idea of like, how much do we truly believe that our God is a God that can do anything, that
Hmm.
literally has no limits.
Right.
And this is a prayer that really reminds us and challenges us around that of like, do you really believe that our God is limitless? And yeah, I really appreciated that, and
It's something,
it
and
still speaks to me.
we kind of held off. Well, we didn't hold off. The war in Ukraine was starting and coming out, and we just felt like, isn't it incredible that
Hmm.
we have the gift of a response
Yeah.
to release out into the world that
Hmm.
addresses many people's feelings about what's going on, the overwhelm. And I think that's true of the pandemic as well. I mean, we've shot these in the middle of the pandemic. In fact, the one of the things I wanted to discuss, and it's not really an actor reflection, but I think it's quite hilarious that when Christina told us that she felt like she wanted to shoot it in her bathroom, we realized that her bathroom was far too small to have a film crew in. And so I set out during the pandemic, mask on, lots of sanitizer, going to all these hotels around the city, attempting to find a bathroom large enough that was within our budget, because some of the nicer hotels are very
So
expensive.
expensive. So
And
expensive.
so we settled on this hotel called the St. George, I believe, on
Hmm.
Bloor
Yeah.
Street in Toronto. And we got the presidential suite, which is like it's the biggest suite in the whole place. The whole room was incredible, and they graciously gave it to us at a significant discount. And
Hmm.
initially they wanted to have us rent out each room on
The
either
whole,
side because of COVID, and we were
yeah,
like, we don't have the budget for that. But uh,
yeah.
the room was incredible. They were so amazing there. And in fact, we need to send them a copy of this, because when we load in equipment to go into a hotel room to shoot something, there's a lot of thoughts that go into people's brains, and we're like, no, this is a prayer offering. These are Salem moments, and so we just loved shooting that place. It was perfect because Christina is a model, and she's often on the road working. This environment it ended up just being
Hmm.
incredible, and she felt right at home because this was her moment, coming home after a long shoot, plunking
Yeah.
herself down on the bed, and then really having a conversation with God. And I think it ended up being, and the bathroom is beautiful as well. So there was a whole
Oh,
kind of, and I love the contrast between her honesty and the rawness of it, and the almost the opulence of the bath. Like, it's that
mm,
notion of that God has for us even greater things than we can ask or imagine, and God has for us that He can stop wars. Like, He's got things under control. And so I love the juxtaposition of how the bathroom looked, how the hotel looked, and Christina's honesty. It was really
yeah.
fun to shoot.
It was so much fun to shoot, and I have to say, I agree in that, like, with the location being perfect, and I love how we were able to go to the place that she goes to when she's
Yeah.
praying these prayers, and provide that. It is also just quite humorous that, like, in all the things that you think you're going to be doing in your life, when you're doing the kind of work that we do at JHCA, shooting in a hotel bathroom doesn't generally come to mind, which is also
a
part of what
crew
makes
of
it so much
a
fun.
crew of I don't know how many we had, 8 people or whatever. All even in that
Oh,
bathroom, everybody's crammed
yeah,
in, and we're all
just like,
trying to find angles that don't show us on the mirror or on the shower glass, and all.
oh,
It was a
it
little bit
was
comedic, actually.
it was so much fun though. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
All right, let's watch, in light of her actor's reflection. Let's just watch the opening 30 seconds of Christina's psalm.
great.
God is our shelter and our strength. When troubles seem near, God is near and He's ready to help. So why run and hide? No fear, no pacing, no biting fingernails. When the earth spins out of control, we are sure and fearless.
Oh, I love that psalm. So to watch the full Psalm 46 that Christina graciously shared with us, please click on the playlist. There should be a little tab thing that appears somewhere on your screen. So yeah, if you click on there, you can see all of the Psalms that we're sharing with you today, plus the other ones. So moving along, trekking right along, we can talk now about JJ's actor's reflection. So why don't we go ahead
Yes.
and watch that one?
So JJ, tell me what you thought of this psalm. Tell me what your experience was with this psalm.
Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting experience with this psalm since I've been delving into it. One of the things I found real connection with in it is that as we go through life, we will find adversities in different points, and in those moments, it can be hard to remember the good things that God's given to us. And I love how David, even though he's in the cave and has his enemies surrounding him, he's able to take a moment and reflect on the goodness of God's greatness. And for me, being able to take that breath and remember what God's done for me in the midst of struggle is so important. It's so very important. It doesn't diminish the struggle. In fact, it enlightens it. It shows the truth of it. It shows how God interacts with that. Yeah.
That's great. So tell me why did you choose to shoot in a car?
I chose to shoot in a car because for me, when I'm having a lot of those rough conversations with God, they happen in cars. They happen on the way somewhere or from somewhere. You know, I might be headed to work, or I might have just had a bad day at work and I'm headed home. And that's the moment where you take a moment to be real and honest and say, hey God, this is what's up. This is where I'm at today. And I hope that people watching this can find that space for themselves to wherever they're at, have the same moment or some similar moment for themselves.
That's great. What was it like having to shoot while driving?
Downtown Toronto's a bit scary driving, those who don't know. So having the experience of doing this driving was, it was actually quite fun. It was one of these moments, making sure you're using all your skills, because there's no green screen. That was not a green screen, everybody. No fake wind going through my hair. But it was great, actually. I felt like the nervousness that would go through my real body having this conversation with God was going through my body in different ways because of the actual circumstance of my surroundings.
Right.
Yeah.
What was something that surprised you about working on this?
Something that surprised me about working on this was how real David gets in his psalm. He goes there. He's not afraid to say to God, I am afraid in this moment. I have real enemies. I'm not just in hunky-dory land. I am in a moment of lament. And that was a real discovery to me, because often the Psalms, I mean, yes, we know some of the Psalms are going through the darkness, but this one really goes through that darkness. It's like taking away the niceties of a lot of other Psalms. And we see his humanity that contrasts with God's greatness.
Okay, this has nothing to
I
do
love
with the
this
actor's
one.
reflection. I just kept looking at his hair. For those who don't know, JJ is my brother. He's my youngest brother, and I just loved his hair and how it looked in that, which I know is kind of
You're
funny,
so hilarious
but
that you love his hair. I think that's just a riot.
but oh yeah, something I wish I had the stat for this. But I've been really reminded doing this project, and whenever we study the Psalms, that like I think it's about, gosh, I don't want to say the wrong stat, but it is overwhelmingly in the Psalms that the Psalms are dealing with lament and with like heart cry, rather than like, God, everything's great, I'm going to rejoice you. Thank you for, like there's the rejoicing Psalms, the thankful Psalms that are wonderful, but like the number of those Psalms compared to the number of songs of like, God, I need you. Life sucks right now. This is
Right.
hard. People are like so mean. Like those Psalms, there are way more of those Psalms.
Yep.
And I think it's to our shame, in our church tradition, that we don't focus on those, that we don't typically sing those, to one another, because there's such a normalizing, and not just normalizing on the level of like, oh yeah, everyone has hard times, but normalizing on the level of like, God can carry you through these hard times. God wants to carry you through these hard times. I thought what JJ said was so beautiful about like crying out to God doesn't necessarily take you out of that circumstance, but it lightens those circumstances.
Right.
And I just thought that was so true, and something that we don't talk enough about and focus on.
It's true. I think that
So,
a lot of the mainline Protestant denominations, and even in the Catholic Church, they do a far better job in their liturgy of
yeah.
incorporating lament and incorporating the Psalms into the calendar of their year.
Yeah.
In the more evangelical traditions, not so much. And so I totally hear what you're saying. We're not, I don't think as a culture we're good, as a North American culture, we're not good at lament. And
Yeah.
that was part of the, funny enough, but that was part of the joy of producing these films. And we have, 14 more to produce, is to give people that permission to do what JJ did in his psalm,
Yeah.
which is get honest, because God is big enough to take your greatest challenge, or your greatest accusation, or your greatest whatever. And so I think it's just really, I'm excited that these are out, because I think sometimes we don't quite know a way in, and I think my hope is with these films that they provide a catalytic moment to really getting soul honest with ourselves and with God, and hopefully with some friends around you who can walk with you through things. And I also, on a separate note, I also love the car thing. That I feel like that is one of the primary places that I have conversations with God. And I love road trips for that very reason, because I feel like I can fool around and listen to music and podcasts for about a couple hours, but eventually I have to get quiet with myself and get honest. And
what that means though, Jason, is that you need to be in the car for like all day, because the first few hours you can kind of breeze it by.
That is very true. I do need to be in the car all day to have deep conversations.
I thought too, what came to my mind when I was hearing JJ say that, and I think this is true for all of our psalms, right? Because whoever is performing in that psalm has picked a place that is meaningful to them, and usually a place that's connected to where they go when they're having their hearts cry and they're wanting to communicate with the Creator. There's such value in knowing what and where those spaces are for you. And for those of you that are watching to this and listening to this conversation, like, just a genuine question of like, do you know where your space is, where you feel safe and able to cry out to God? And I don't think that, again, because we're not in our faith tradition as big as going into lament, and in recognizing our heart's cries, that's not necessarily something that we all intuitively know, oh, this is where I go. Some people will. But, if you don't know, it may be really worth you figuring that out, because, we are creatures of habit, we're creatures of tradition, and when you do something repeatedly, it does signal something to the body and to the soul. And so knowing like, hey, if I go to the water's edge, it's so much easier for me just to get into that place of talking to God and to hear God. That is beautiful. Or maybe for you, it's like on the bed, like what it was for Wesley, or going for walks in the city like it is for you, Jason, right? Like, there's such value in knowing where it is that you naturally hear God better and are able to be really open and honest. So just for our viewers, like, I know this is not directly to the actor's reflection, but it really did hit me, hearing you, Jason, and hearing JJ's reflection as well. I just want to encourage those of you that are watching this to discover what that place is, and to go there repeatedly, make it a habit.
It's really significant. It's a really know yourself. Find the place that where you hear deeply. On a completely different note too, I think one of the things I love that JJ commented on himself drive. So JJ drives a little car, and we stuck him in our director of photography's truck because that was the one with the most space. So he's driving a Ram truck like through the city, and we're all in like crammed in around him. So Wayne's at the back. Wayne, our sound designer technician guys at the back, with me behind the seat, and then Brian, our director of photography, has his camera up like this, and he's filming in and out. And so, had you had like another camera in the car watching us all, it would have been a complete comedy.
been
and of course,
hilarious.
JJ is trying to have this intimate conversation with God as he's driving around
With two
a
men in
very
the back,
busy
like-
city. We're just like in, and I've got the monitor in the back like this behind the passenger seat. I mean, it was just hilarious. And we just kept driving around the city, however many takes. And so we actually, I loved it because we got to dusk. And so the take that ended up being the best take was the one as the sun is just shifting down and there's this really cool mood. It's sort of turning into night. And JJ, and I had this with my psalm too, as he continued on after a number of takes, he really started to find like a really deep place. And he really, I just loved it. And from an actor perspective, one of my favorite moments in the entire psalm is his last breath. So he's in the car, he turns the corner, and he's kind of had it out with God. He's given his commentary. He's heading to wherever he's heading, and he does this. And you'll find those breaths intentionally in almost I think they're in every psalm that we shot so far. Mm-hmm. And it kind of happened organically without me directing it in that way. But he just releases this breath, and it is an awesome moment. It like a kind of, yes, amen, whatever the moment is, it's finished. It was great. It was one of my favorite moments in the whole thing. And it's just there for like a second.
Well, knowing that, let's maybe watch the last 30, 40 seconds of JJ's psalm so we can experience that breath together.
I will find my joy in the true God. All who make pledges and invoke his name will celebrate, while the mindless prattle of cheaters and deceivers will be silenced.
Well, once again, I'm going to just remind you guys that to watch the full psalm, click on the playlist. It'll also be linked in the description box, and you can go and watch the psalms in their entirety. All right. There's one more psalm to go. Our final psalm of cycle 1 was performed by the amazing and wonderful Corey. So let's watch her actor's reflection.
Tell me your experience with the psalm, Corey.
Oh, Psalm 84. The journey of all journeys, yeah? So there were a couple of things. One is that the first reflection that I got from it, not knowing anything about it, was, right, that there were these 3 stages of it, and that it seemed kind of like some sort of pilgrimage. I wasn't really sure what the relationship was, but it seemed like it was a pilgrimage that came in three steps. And then I started doing a little bit of research, which you and I talked about a little bit about before, which is discovering that this particular psalm is part of a longer prayer in Judaism. Which was that this was the kind of like the prologue to the deep spiritual prayer. And so it made a lot of sense then that this had this pilgrimage, right? That this was moving into a place of presence, so that one could then actually be still enough to listen and respond to God. And so that made a lot of sense to me.
And how did that feel in you to go there?
It was interesting, partially because sometimes I'm really resistant to listening to my connection to the Spirit. And so it was, which I was also, is that why I'm doing this particular psalm? But it was really beautiful because it allowed me to connect with God in a way that I really thrive in, which is art and nature. And so fusing all of those together really made not only my body relax, but really accepting my own sense of strength and my own sense of spirituality, and that my feeling a part of something greater made me feel really good. And even when we were working early on this psalm together, just by working in that spiritual way, so much abundance came into my life, and I was so thrilled about it. And so I think Psalm 84 is my jam now. So.
That's awesome. And can you just speak like a little bit about so why here? Why are we shooting it here?
Yeah. So again, the things that really spoke to me about the text was this great sense of a journey of longing, that it was both metaphorical and literal, and that the struggles that we face are kinesthetic as well as intellectual. And so I really wanted to feel like I was on a pilgrimage. I wanted to feel like that I was struggling to meet my way to something that was greater than myself, that had awe and majesty, that really gave me that sense of being enveloped by something greater than myself. And so this is, I mean, I yes, thank you. So, you know.
So good. So good.
So good.
Wow.
I love Corey, and I loved working with her. I hadn't met her in person until we did this psalm with her, and I just like Corey. I said this to you the day of. If you're watching this, like I'll say it again, like just a beauty to your soul and to your. She has such a presence,
Yes.
and it's vivacious and fun and very real and in the moment, but yet there's such respect in everything that she does and says, and intentionality with it, and I don't just mean that within her performance, but also just in conversation with her, you know.
Right.
And it was just wonderful. It's just so wonderful.
Yeah,
And I
loved
the location.
I
of this
appreciate
song.
and love Corey so much. For those of you who don't know, we did our Masters of Fine Arts together at York University, and that's where I got to meet her. Corey's from New York, and has worked in the industry since she was very young, and has done every kind of Shakespeare performance imaginable. She's played all the amazing characters, and she's an incredible clown as well. She does therapeutic clown now, which is incredible. But she's just tremendously thoughtful, very prepared, and probably one of the best actors that I've ever met. And so when we were thinking about this, and comes from a Jewish background, and so there's just real resonance to her work in this. And she really, after we had shot, and when Mike Jansen and I were working on the music, I said to him, you need to make it feel like she is in the middle of Midsummer Night's Dream. Like the music in this needs to feel like Titania is walking down the wooded path to meet Oberon. Like it needs to feel like that, because she's got such an expansive presence, Like it fills the woods where you're at, and it's like she's in tune with it, or the woods or something. And so Mike
Yeah.
brought this beautiful kind of sound moment to add to what she was already doing. So I was just tremendously happy with the whole thing.
Yeah, no, she does such a great job. And, you know, I loved what she said about going on a journey, and um, she wanted, to bring the things that really enable her to connect, which is art and nature, into one place. And that this song, like, brought her on a journey, and she wanted to reflect that journey. And when you watch her song, I think that is abundantly clear that that's what's happening. And I love that. I loved hearing that that was her intention, and that we were able to make that intention happen in the process. And
We did a lot of
yeah.
we did a lot of location scouting to figure out where we could shoot the thing that made the most sense, and we found this incredible location on the side of a cliff at the end. And I think there's many amazing actor moments in this that I really love. One of them is her hugging the tree is so appropriate for Corey, and I just love. Only she could pull off that moment and make it not seem cheesy. Like it actually is very intentional and deep
Just
and
works.
delightful.
Yeah.
And I love it. Anybody else would make it just seem cheesy, and she just was like, it was so joyful. and then again, to the end of the ending of people's psalms, the moment at the end was not planned, and we're up on the side of the cliff, and she has this moment, and she looks right at the camera, and all of us just go, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it was incredible. Like we hadn't anticipated it, and we didn't think about it, and we all went, yep, that's it. Whatever you just did there. I don't know why you did that, but that is it. Like she was asking us or inviting us, or I don't know exactly what she was doing, but we were all of us on the side of the cliff we went, whoa. It was great. It was so great.
And the other thing that I wanted to say about this psalm, which again isn't directly connected to her reflection, but I think it kind of is, when she talked about how this psalm is designed as a larger prayer to prepare you to go to the deeper places. And as people that have been in our faith tradition, for me, myself personally, all my life, for other people that are in similar situations, like this is a psalm that we are very familiar with. It's been turned into songs, it's been read a lot in services. And I love that when she read this psalm, and again, it goes back to the journey bit, right? That she was just like, this psalm needs to take me on a journey, and it needs to take us on a journey, because it brought such a freshness to these words. And it also just like reinforced, and I think this whole project reinforces that like God, the creator, like doesn't exist inside a building. Like the building is there so that way we have a place to go to as people of tradition and wanting familiarity. But God doesn't actually exist inside. Like, yes, he's there, but he's not only there, and his house can be everywhere. And I loved how when she envisioned this psalm, she wasn't like, oh, I need to be inside a church building or some sort of sacred building. I need to be like outdoors, because that's where I, meet the creator and connect. And that's where I thrive alongside art. And so for me, it just brought such freshness to the words, and such deeper meaning and understanding of like that end scene with her on the side of the cliff, speaking about being in his courts at the temple gates. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, yes. And you experience it. You truly experience it in that moment. And
the breath too, there as the theme through our whole project. There's just some moments where she just sits, and she just gives that release, and just went. And again, we all have this moment of like, yes, just release it.
Yeah. All right.
So
let's
good.
Let's maybe watch this, like the first 30 seconds or 40 seconds of her film at the beginning of this journey.
Sure.
How lovely is your temple, your dwelling place on earth, O Eternal One, Commander of Heaven's armies. How I long to be there.
It's so hard to stop right there because you just want to keep going. You want to experience all of it. But again, as I've said before, and I'll say it for the last time in this conversation, you can experience the entirety of the psalm simply by clicking on the playlist that's linked somewhere up here or in the description box as well. All of the psalms will be linked there. Jason, we did it. We did
it.
7 of our 21 microfilms. This is so exciting. I cannot wait. I cannot wait till we do the other 2 cycles. And
Absolutely.
I just want to give an invitation to all of you that are here watching still. Thanks for sticking with this entire episode of Unlock This Story, Actors Reflections, the stories behind the scenes of Psalms microfilms. And if you want to join in what we're doing, if you want to help support and partner with us for creating cycle 2 and cycle 3, you can do so by donating. There will be a link in the description box, or you can head over to psalmsmicrofilms.com and click the donate button that you see on the page there. I can't wait. I can't wait to do this again.
I'm so excited. I'm just in eager anticipation about who will partner with us so that we can get these next 7 psalms done, and then of course the final 7. But we're really trusting that these kind of partnerships, these kind of donation partnerships, will come in the next little while so that we can shoot in the fall. That's the hope. So
yeah, that is the hope.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. All right, if you haven't seen the other episodes in our Actors Reflection, also those will be linked below in the description box. You can watch all of us, the behind the scenes, and Jason and I reacting to all the behind the scenes of all the other songs. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.